Oh, hi everybody, it's April 7th. I'm Ezra Levant and you're watching our daytime live stream. We call it Battleground traditionally, but that's when it's a once a week. Now it's once a day. Typically we focus on the coronavirus and the political reaction to it, the economic panic and destruction in response to it. I just got out of a meeting. We're going to have a video that we'll show you later today. I got tested. I got tested for the virus, and I was pretty sure I didn't. I'm quite sure I don't have it. But I thought perhaps when I was really sick in January, I had a terrible flu. I thought, well, maybe that was the coronavirus, COVID-19, and I didn't know it. But alas, the test comes back with one of three readings. One is you've got the bug. The other is you've got it and you're clear. And then the third is you never had it. And I came back in the never had it category, which of course is good news, but having had it, it's the consensus that you are therefore immune to it. It was a nearly instant test. It took 3 minutes to get the results. It was instant. And David Menzies, one of our reporters, in fact, the reporter who's been going to the Toronto airport almost every day to interview passengers flying in from China. He took the test and we did a little video out of it because we had some concern that he may have had the virus from the airport. Now, I was pretty sure he didn't. He takes precautions. He wears a face mask. He wears goggles on his eyes. He uses a microphone on the end of a hockey stick, a form of social distancing. But I think he was relieved to learn he didn't have it, and I know his family will be too. So we'll have a special video that I expect to have up tonight of David's having this test explained to him, having it administered to him, and then a discussion about can we get this test en masse in Canada, testing people for two reasons. First of all, so you don't put people with the virus, that it's latent in their blood, but it hasn't yet expressed itself with symptoms, that you don't put, you quarantine them. You don't, for example, if they are a nurse, you don't send them into an old folks home. And second of all, if someone is clear, if someone has been found to have had the virus and they're done, why let them go back to work? In fact, perhaps they can go to work for jobs that require someone to be really safe, like the aforementioned old folks home. Anyway, that's a video that we'll have later today. I just want to explain where I just came from, and that's on my mind. You know what we do here? We call it a super chat. That's actually YouTube's word for a live chat where people can make their comments stand out by highlighting them in a bright color and sticking them to the top of that chat window. And that's by chipping in a few dollars or pounds or whatever your currency is. And as I like to tell our viewers, YouTube gives us 70% of those revenues, so it's a way to keep the rebel strong. All right, so enough preamble. Feel free to share the video. Just click share or and ring the bell. That's that little bell icon there. That makes sure you don't miss our videos in the future. I want to talk about you know Jussie Smollett. You know what I'm talking about. He's that actor from, what was the name of his series? Empire, that's right. And he claimed, remember him? Do you want to put up a picture of him so people can remember? He was in Chicago, which is a very Democrat city. It's also a fairly African-American city. And he's half black, I think, himself. And he claims that he was out at 3 a.m. and a couple of rednecks, there he is, you know who I'm talking about. A couple of rednecks saw him and said, hey, you're that gay guy from Empire. I think they threw in the gay part too. And then they allegedly said, this is MAGA country. Make America Great Again, the Donald Trump slogan. So apparently, if you believe Jussie Smollett, at 3 a.m., oh, and they had a noose with them for lynching, and they were carrying it around. And Jussie Smollett, in his telling of the story, fought off these two guys, but kept the noose over his neck till police came just to make sure they saw it. And amazingly, this happened when he went out to Subway sandwiches for his Subway, and he never dropped or put down the Subway sandwich. To me, that was the most touching moment in the whole thing. Find yourself someone who loves you the way Jussie Smollett loved that sandwich. Imagine fighting 2 against 1, 2 burly rednecks with their MAGA hats and a noose, fighting them off with one hand because your other hand is holding your sandwich. Well, obviously the whole thing was a hoax. It was fake. I think that was immediately detectable with anyone with an ounce of skepticism, curiosity, or just, where's your BS meter on that? And the mainstream media not only bought it, but they became passionate partisan defenders of Jussie Smollett till he was revealed as a fake. So that's a reminder who Jussie Smollett is. And of course, the Crown prosecutor in the states, the U.S. attorney, refused to prosecute him, but the city of, I think, Chicago is suing him civilly for the cost of this whole shenanigans, and I'm glad they are. I tell you all that because let me introduce you to Nurse Smollett. No relation, it's not her real name. But I want to show you a nurse who's complaining about how terrible things are. Watch this and tell me if you think this rings true or not, because NBC sure did. Take a look.
America is not prepared, and nurses are not being protected. I quit my job today. I went into work and I was assigned to a COVID patient on an ICU unit that has been converted to a designated COVID unit. None of the nurses are wearing masks, not even surgical masks, in the hallways when they're giving report to each other. I had my own N95 mask. I told my manager, I understand we're short on supplies, but let me protect myself. Let me feel safe. I have family that I have to come home to, and the way things are looking, this isn't gonna get any better. America is not prepared, and nurses are not being protected.
I said NBC, that's obviously CBS there. I thought the music was a nice touch. I thought that's just what made it so obviously real. Now, do you think that's true? Or do you detect a little bit of a dramatic actor there? Do you think that was a thespian putting on a performance? How many people have retweeted and liked that, by the way? Last I saw it was, 20,000 or so. Did that seem sketchy to you at all? No mention of the hospital or the ward. She's terrified. We're all going to die. Did that seem real or fake to you? I don't know. It seems like it was tailor-made for social media. I don't think that CBS would have added the music track to that. I just don't think they would have. So this talented young actress did, which is a bit of an alarm bell, don't you think? Well, take a look at this video from the same dramatic actor and nurse, and you tell me, how credible is this person?
Coronavirus. Shit is real. Shit is getting real. Don't worry. Every single person that you'll come into contact with this evening has no coronavirus. And don't worry, the coronavirus only lasts for up to 3 days on uncleansed surfaces. You'll be fine. Don't worry. Coronavirus. Shit is real. Shit is getting real.
Yeah, you may recall that little riff. That's a Cardi B riff. I see that CBS has released a statement. They haven't taken down the video, but they have identified that nurse. Her name is Imaris Vera. And I think that was literally her first day on the job. She went to work and just sort of Her Facebook post read that she had not been employed at the ICU for over a year, and that she wasn't sure if she was ready to join the front lines again. And then she just sort of panicked and made a social video because she wanted to be a star. She didn't want to help anybody. She just wanted to become internet famous. So I think she actually was a nurse. That was her first day on the job. And she just, I'm not going to get into I was just reading from a post-millennial article there, but she basically panicked and thought, well, let me just do some dramatic acting. Nurse Smollett, I'll call her. Xanatos Wolf chips in $2. Ezra, thank you for being you. Any news on Tommy? Yes, actually. He was scheduled, you may recall, to have a trial in the matter of him. You might recall him and his family went to a Center Parcs, and some 3 men were in the kids' pool by themselves, and one of them groped his daughter. And Tommy went to accost the man, and some blows were exchanged. Tommy was charged with assault. That trial was scheduled to happen on April 2nd, but the whole court was shut down because of the virus. Everything's shut down. All of his litigation is shut down, including the defamation case against him. So I think that's good. I think that's good news, because were all BS lawfare cases against him. So that's my answer to your question. Okay, so we did the nurse videos. I want to show you a video that I saw yesterday at Donald Trump's briefing. I tell you, Donald Trump has instincts, and they are good. Let me show you when he was asked a question that was slightly aggressive, slightly leaning, certainly not as aggressive or leading a question as anything asked by CNN. But Donald Trump's spider senses were tingling. Take a look at this.
Has agreed to spend $250 billion, many billions of dollars in our country, much of it going to farmers and manufacturers. So I'll let you know. I mean, I hope they're going to honor the deal. We'll find out.
With China, are you cooperating with
I don't
China?
know. Who are you working for, China? Do you work for China, or are you with a newspaper? Who are you with?
Hong Kong Phoenix TV.
Who owns that, China? Is it owned by China?
Hong Kong.
No, is it owned by the state?
No, it's not. It's a private owned company.
Okay, good. Okay. Look, I'll let you know. I'll give you a good answer to that in a few months. I wanted to see what they do, because it's time for them to help us. Okay, it's time right now for China to help us, and hopefully they do. And if they don't, that's okay too. But we signed a deal. It was signed with great goodwill and spirit, and it's time that our farmers benefited, our manufacturers benefited, and we'll see whether or not that deal is honored. And I think it will be, because I know President Xi, who I like and respect, and I think he will honor the deal he made with us. It just went into effect 4 days ago. I will see whether or not. In fact, I called up just a little while ago. I said, how are the farmers doing with respect to China? Are they buying the product as anticipated? And the answer was, yeah, I think so. But it wasn't the most positive, but it was starting. The deal just started. So I'll let you know. But, for many, many years, China ate our lunch, because we had people in this position that I'm in right now that allowed China to get away with absolute murder. And it should have never happened. But we are now dealing with China. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I think there was, I can't remember if there was one more interaction with her, but that shows enough. So, of course, there are people who are Asian Americans in the press corps of American media, but this lady had a Chinese accent, which suggested that perhaps she was with the foreign media. And it may be that Trump was alerted to that in advance, because I know you have to register to be in that room. I've been in that room. I've only gone once. You have to register in advance if you're a foreign national like me. You have to submit documentation. You have to go through the equivalent of an airport security screening. I think it's a heavier screening for foreigners like me, I'm a Canadian, than for Americans. In fact, I'm certain of it. So I think Trump probably knew who she was. or he has good spider senses, because he said, who do you work for? Is it Chinese? She said Hong Kong, but Trump's no dummy. He knows that Hong Kong is legally, geographically, constitutionally part of the People's Republic of China now. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So she said a Hong Kong company. He said, well, is it owned publicly or privately? Is the government a stakeholder? And she said it's private. And he was obviously thinking, well, she's a Chinese agent. And I saw a lot of North American journalists tutting, oh, he's so racist. He's so racist. That's obviously an insult. Can you just Google Hong Kong Phoenix TV and Free Beacon? Or Ted Cruz had a tweet about it. So Trump was right, and he answered the question anyway in a way he wanted. But it turns out that Hong Kong Phoenix TV is the equivalent of RT, Russia Today, or Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is technically not owned by the government of Qatar, I think. I think it's owned by members of the royal family, so as if that's a difference. I was looking into this last night, and just anything like Free Beacon or Ted Cruz tweeted about it this morning. No, it's about, well, that one, but anything in regards to this Phoenix TV. I know Jack Posobiec had some tweets about it too. I think Free Beacon or the Federalist, I'm not sure. Anyhow, Posobiec had some. My point is, they're heavily Chinese. And by Chinese, I don't mean ethnically Chinese. I don't even mean geographically Chinese. I mean the Chinese government. Communist Party, senior members of the Communist Party are the major stakeholders and directors of the organization. It is as much a voice of the communist dictatorship as RT, Russia Today, is the voice of the Kremlin. And so first of all, kudos to Trump for knowing that, either using his spider senses or being briefed in advance. He knew that that woman was not a free Chinese. She was not a Hong Kong democracy activist. She was not a Taiwanese liberty-loving patriot. She was not a Chinese American loyal to America. That was a Chinese communist agent working for a communist-directed private company that's about as private a company as RT Russia Today. So kudos for Trump for, there we go. In February, Phoenix TV spread a report urging Americans not to buy masks. Okay, that's an interesting point, but that doesn't touch on the fact that they're owned and directed by senior communists. It doesn't matter. I mean, take my word for it. Folks can do their own research if they want. What's incredible to me is that to get in those seats, like I say, there's various processes. Part of it is controlled by the White House Correspondents Association, and part of it ultimately is controlled by the White House. So my question is, number one, why did the White House let a foreign agent in there? That was not a journalistic question at its core. That was a political propaganda question asked on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party that, let's be honest, yielded a moderately interesting journalistic answer. But it was not asked for journalistic purposes. It was asked, I'm not going to say for espionage purposes, but it was asked as a deliberate errand by the Communist Party of China. That woman ultimately answers to the Communist Party of China. She's not a journalist at her core. I think I've told you before that our friend Dr. Charles Burton, a former Canadian diplomat to China who is now a professor at Brock University, he says that Xinhua, that's another communist news outlet, would call him up, ask him a series of questions, and never publish the interview as a journalistic expression. They were just gathering information that they passed on to the Communist Party. So they would call him up posing as journalists, but instead of writing a news story, they would send it as a memo back to the embassy. That's who they let into the White House. So why is the White House doing that? And why is the White House Correspondents Association allowing that? And if you have trouble understanding this, for 3.5 years we've been hearing Russia, Russia, Russia. There was like a $500 million inquiry into it. Well, maybe it only cost $100 million. The Mueller inquiry. Imagine if Russian agents came into the press conference and asked questions that were clearly drafted by Putin's people. And yet this was just unremarkable. Let's look at some more super chats. Druidic Norris, $5. The global weapon of choice is ultra-feminization. Read Dragon Mother and Adultism, The Reign of the Terrible Mother on Amazon. I've heard that argument being made in a number of ways before. I have not read those books. Okay, so let's take a look-see. So I think that was a very interesting, I mean, the question was not devastating. The answer was not riveting. It was interesting enough. But to me, the fact that a Chinese agent is allowed into the White House with the approval of the rest of the media party is shocking to me. Now, I see you have under control in China. Is this a Harry Chen video?
No, you tweeted that. It's just saying that the leader of China...
Oh, right. Right. I think I've showed you my favorite Chinese Twitter feeds. I follow a variety of Communist Party outlets. I follow China Daily. I follow People's Daily. I follow Global Times. Those are all propaganda outlets for China. Why? Because I want to hear what the Chinese propaganda is. I follow a number of Chinese ambassadors as well, and terrifyingly, some of them follow me, and I'm not sure how much I like that. But importantly, I follow dissidents and critics, and I think we showed yesterday that Ai Weiwei. I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with his name. I just know he's the big dissident. He's like Salman Rushdie. He retweeted a tweet of mine, which is, I'll say it, it's a bit of an honor. It was about China demanding that France adopt 5G from Huawei as a price for giving France face masks. Anyways, one of the sites I follow is Harry Chen. Do you want to go to the Harry Chen site right now? I think he's great. He's actually got a couple of sites because they keep shutting him down. So that's the one I've shown you before of the stormtrooper style. That's what's the date on that one there? March 8th. Yeah, I remember seeing that back then. I think I might have even put that in a monologue back then. You knew it was bad. What is this one here? Filmed by a security guard holding his phone, recording the CCTV footage from a mall in what is said to be Chengdu. The officer reports the incident to his superior on his phone. At least he is wearing a Canadian mask so he can protect others. Harry Chen doesn't trust made in China masks. I don't know how he knows if it's a Canadian mask, but it's sort of crazy that we're sending Canadian masks over there. What's this next one here? All the whistle sounded afterwards, which could not be compared. How could there be April 4 without 404? He speaks cryptically sometimes. Maybe these are Chinese references I don't understand. The second wave, Guangzhou, China. So they're shutting down the city, apparently. They're blocking things. Let's just look at a couple more. The operation when secretly going out during the epidemic. Oh, isn't that funny? That's someone, let's watch that one more time. That's someone. No, that's CGI. I think that's CGI, don't you? Let's watch that one more time. Is that really a person? No, I think that's computer generated. What's the next one? Real time, April 7th afternoon, mountain collapse in the direction of Yongshan Permanent Bridge in Leibo County, Sichuan. Okay, so it's just a natural disaster. Heilongjiang, more than $2 billion investment. Hulan wetland gate, 5 illegal building demolition. Just weird things from China. That's Mali. I'm not that interested in that right now. Can you scroll down? I want to find, there was one about, this is the aggressive stance America needs. Okay, he's quoting from an article. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit here. This is the one I wanted. Under the cover of darkness, a body in Wuhan is being secretly transported. The community property management helped to conceal the report and logistics. So can you expand that, make that bigger? Let's watch that through, okay? So what he's saying here is that here is a body being moved at night because they're trying to avoid reporting, thank you, that there is actually more cases, because China has the fiction that they've beaten this problem, it's all over. Although President Xi himself is now wearing a mask in public. That's good hygiene, that's good practice, but it seems a bit odd that you're doing that when you're saying you've beat the bug. There's no more bug out there. Akasha Oftaniel says, while we are in quarantine, 5G is being set up in Canada. Yes, I've seen a newspaper photo to that effect. And I'm pretty sure that Huawei is one of the suppliers of that. Oh, yeah, sorry, you were showing the Chinese leader wearing a mask there. I appreciate that. Are there any super chats that I missed?
There's one I can send it. It's Shyla Ann Sweet for $4.
Shyla Ann Sweet for $4. Thank you very much. Okay, it's 12:26. You have Don Lemon here. What was the Don Lemon quote?
He was just yelling about Trump again.
Oh, let's just take a look. He's yelling about Trump, getting his exercise. Take a look.
I'd be honest with you. For the last couple of weeks, when I walk into this building and I get in front of this camera, I swear I feel like I'm in the movie network. I feel like Howard Beale. Americans are mad as hell. When are you going to, how much more can Americans take? Every single day berating people, lying.
You know, that's not even interesting to me. Don Lemon, I'll never be able to, can you call up the one where he was there with Rick Wilson? Don Lemon, Rick Wilson, and I can't remember, maybe it was the guy from Patriot Act, that comedy show. The three of them were mocking how stupid Americans are. Do you know the one? And I can never not see Don Lemon and not think of that. I mean, let's be honest, I don't watch a lot of CNN to begin with. I find Don Lemon unctuous and precious and overwrought. Who cares? That's my opinion. But then when I saw him with Rick Wilson mocking how stupid Americans are, I just can't unsee it. Let me know when we got that clip. Take a look.
And look, he also knows deep in his heart that Donald Trump couldn't find Ukraine on a map if you had the letter U and a picture of an actual physical crane next to it. He knows that this is, an administration defined by ignorance of the world. And so that's partly him playing to their base and playing to their audience, the credulous boomer Rube demo that backs Donald Trump, that wants to think that Donald Trump's a smart one and y'all elitists are dumb.
You elitists with your geography and your maps and your spelling, even though
your math and your reading.
Yeah, you're reading, your geography, knowing other countries, sipping your latte.
All those lines on the map.
Only them elitists know where Ukraine is. Sorry, I apologize.
But by the way, oh my God!
But you know what? But it was Rick's fault. I blame Rick. But in all honesty,
blame
you know what
Rick.
NPR should
Why
do?
not? Sorry, hold on. Wait.
Can I tell you
Give me
what?
a second. Hold on. Sorry. That was good. Sorry, Rick. That was a good one. I needed that. Okay, so listen.
Can
Let's
I
get
tell you
back
what?
to business here.
Around the office here a couple years ago, we had a contest. There's a lot of websites where you can type in country names on a blank map. Have you ever played those? You want to pull up Jet Punk or something, or one of those? It's a fun thing. It's like, I used to play, on a computer. You would get like 2 games pre-installed. There was Minesweeper, where you push a button and it says, these are just like really low tech, low res games. They're not even really games. It's just sort of something to fidget with. Maybe you're on an airplane with no Wi-Fi and you're literally just whatever, you're daydreaming. Anyhow, this, you type in Canada there, and then you see Canada. So can you find Ukraine on the map here? Now, Justin, I know you can, because I know you rock this thing. You solve this whole thing. But I want to ask you, my dear viewer, do you think that Don Lemon on this map could point to Ukraine and get it right? Do you really, really think he could? Number 2, is it important that Joe Average American can? It's important. And are those 3 guys there really Nobel Prize winning super brainiacs? By the way, type in Ukraine so we can all see. Yeah, so Ukraine is at, as you can see, it's near the Russia, which is that really big one. And then Ukraine is there, and of course, Russia invaded East Ukraine. So yeah, I'm sorry, I do not believe that Don Lemon could find Ukraine on a map. I think he probably should know, because he's in the news business. I don't know if it's necessary for every American to know on a map where countries are, but that's not the point. The point is the sheer condescension, distaste, and loathing for their fellow Americans there. I really don't care what Don Lemon has to say for the rest of his life. Island Ariel chips in $10. Justin Trudeau under arrest. National Post photo shows mysterious bulge on his lower left leg. Why is he still in isolation? No other government officials are. No, I don't think that Justin Trudeau is under arrest. I've seen this rumor, and I'd probably say 5 people have emailed it to me. I do not believe that Justin Trudeau is under arrest in any way. Such an arrest would be extraordinary. It would have to go through a number of levels of approval, probably the public prosecution's office, because it would be such a terrible and heavy thing. It would rock the Constitution, rock our parliament and our democracy. I'm not saying a prime minister cannot be arrested, but it would be the most grave matter, and he would not be, and it would not be unknown to us, and he would not be lazing around in his pajamas at home all day if it was. So the answer to that, I'm afraid, is no. Bob the Monk, $10. My sister, who listens to CBC and CNN, does not believe me when I inform her planes from China are landing every day in Canada. She calls me racist and a Trump supporter. But how is it racist to simply point out where a plane is coming from? In fact, you want to go to YVR and we'll do the test again today? St. Harrison, £2. Do you feel like money has been wasted on Tommy? Well, the entire process is wasteful, and it's designed to be wasteful. As you know, when Tommy was originally thrown in solitary confinement, I think that's 2 years ago now, I led the charge for crowdfunding to get him free. I do not feel like that money was wasted at all. First of all, I truly believe he would have died in prison had he been, he lost 40 pounds. How many stone is that? What's that? I forget. Is that 3 stone? They were starving him. They were threatening him. He was slightly going mad in there. So I believe we saved his life. And by we, I mean you, donors. And it wasn't staggeringly expensive to get him out. And then after that, I sort of backed up from the crowdfunding because he was out and he could do it himself. When he was in prison, I took the lead on that because his family didn't have the skills. His wife is a private person, obviously. That money was not wasted. But since then, to be very candid, the approach of the authorities has been waste his time, waste his money, stress him out, keep him tied up. So the answer is yes. I'm not going to say that he shouldn't fight. I'm saying it's designed to be a wasteful process. Bob the Monk, $10. My sister, I already read that one. So the question there is, are there any flights from China to Vancouver. No need to guess. We can, hand rubbing intensifies, natty, 2 pounds. I don't know what that means. Let's go to, let's go to torontopearson.com. So those are the 2 airports I checked the most. And so this is just torontopearson.com. There's Amsterdam, there's, you're going sort of fast there. Oh, you saw it up top? Frankfurt, Lahore, Pakistan. Yeah, I think there's 2 flights a day coming in from, oh, there it is, Beijing, China. Hainan Airlines. I didn't know. Okay, so grab that. Oh, where's the code? There it is. So grab that code. So this is how we do it, people. We do this every day. We go to yvr.ca, that's the Vancouver airport, torontopearson.com, that's the Toronto airport. Really easy. Click on the button that says arrivals, and they just list the arrivals as if you're going to pick up a passenger. They list the flight number. So Air Canada is AC, WestJet I think is WS, and then the number, and that's a unique flight code in the whole world. No other airline. So here we go. So then we go to flightaware.com and we type it in. You see right at the very, very top, there's a search bar that says search for flight, tail, whatever. Like you can literally search for the tail of an aircraft. Every aircraft has a different tail. It's like a fingerprint. So Justin just copied HU7975 from the Pearson Airport, types it in here, and then look at that. So scroll down a bit. It left Beijing, Gate 3 at Beijing Capital Airport. The airport code is PEK from the old Peking. It's scheduled to land in Toronto at 3:15 p.m. today. Maybe David can go and catch it. It lands in Terminal 3. It's landing in 2 hours and 39 minutes. You see that? So that's a long flight. 12 hours and 50 minutes total travel time. That's quite a long flight. It's been in the air 10 hours and 11 minutes. And there it is. Look at that flight path. Because remember the ones to Vancouver, they go right near the Aleutian Islands, and then it comes down the west coast of BC, and then it comes down in between Vancouver Island and the mainland, and it lands right there. Because of the curvature of the Earth, that may look like it's round, but that is actually, you're flying over the Arctic. Did you know that? So that plane right now looks like it's over, is that the Hudson's Bay or not? It looks like it's probably still over, I don't know where the border is for Nunavut and Northwest Territories. Yeah, it's over that's over Nunavut. So you can see that plane was over Nunavut, then briefly over the Northwest Territories. It's again over Nunavut. In about, I'm going to say 20 minutes, it'll be in Manitoba, excuse me. And on its port side, that's the left, it will come down along the Hudson's Bay. I bet that's a beautiful, if they can see it, if there's no cloud cover, I bet that's very, very beautiful to look down there. I've been to Canada's north, and it's tundra, it's fascinating. You get a real sense for just how huge our country is. Then it comes down over northern Ontario, and just comes straight down, and then zoom in for its final route. So, and then it's almost like it comes down the 400 highway. Is that like that last bit there? Zoom in there. That's a little bit further west than the 400, isn't it? Yeah, it just comes right on down and lands in Pearson. So that's a very interesting route. Can you scroll down the page and tell me what kind of aircraft it is? Looks like a 787. Just click on it. Yeah, is that Hainan Airlines? Is that what it is? Can you I want to show people Hainan Airlines. David put this in a video he did the other day. Can you go to YouTube and type in Hainan Airlines disgusting? Sorry to make you do that. And if you could zoom, there was a fella, I don't know how Hainan Airlines managed to get the Dublin to Edinburgh route. Like how did that happen? Other than predatory pricing and dumping, which China does very well. Probably trying to knock out European airlines out of business. But some people are travel bloggers. I used to fly a lot before the lockdown. I mean, when I mean a lot, I mean a lot. And I would sometimes see these travel bloggers. They're very easy to spot. They were filming everything. They would have little cameras, little GoPros. They would film themselves checking in. They would like film every little thing. It's sort of fun. It looked sort of fun. You spend a lot of time on planes and airports and hotels, so you got to love it. And I was on a plane once, an Air Canada plane, and the guy knew everything about the plane. He said, "Oh, this is one of the last 730." Like he knew about this plane. He knew the actual aircraft we were in. He said it was one of the last of a certain kind, and he knew more about the plane, I tell you, than the crew did. He was talking to them about it. So this video is by one of those travel bloggers. You know, and sometimes they get an upgrade to fly in a really fancy aircraft because, you know, for PR reasons, if you're Emirates or Qatar Airways and you give a free first-class ticket to one of these travel bloggers, they're going to make it seem super awesome. And it's probably a lot cheaper than you paying to create an ad and broadcast the ad, and it has more authenticity to it. Did you find that? And did you zoom into the part where he shows how gross it is? I'm sorry, I don't want to gross you out, people. So here he is walking onto Hainan Airlines 787. So this is exactly the aircraft kind. From Dublin to Edinburgh. I don't know why Hainan is flying that. So he's seated near the back, and you see there's a cushion, and I like the windows on the 787. They sort of have a button you press that makes them lighter or darker. They don't have a blind. They're really big windows. I like the 787. I like the TV. So he sits down here, and you see there's a headrest. He shows the cushion, and in about a minute, I'd like you to pump up the volume, because he's just, you know, those lights. Another feature of the 787 is the lights turn different colors for moods and stuff. Turn on the camera, the sound now.
Space available is very favourable indeed. However, as I bent down to take a look at the power socket, which did work, I noticed something glaringly obvious about this cabin. It was absolutely filthy, the filthiest I've ever travelled in. Having lifted my pillow off the seat, I noticed there was an obvious and disgusting stain on my seat. There's no way this could possibly have been missed by the ground crew, or by the cabin staff for that matter. As well as the unedifying stains on my seat, there was the remnants of somebody's dinner, or perhaps a coffee, on the sidewall of the aircraft too. At this point I was prepared to accept that perhaps this was simply one bad flight. But having had a look down the side of the aircraft, it was obvious that this aircraft had not been cleaned properly for some weeks. There was filth and caked in food remains absolutely everywhere.
I won't go on. You can find that. What was the name of that travel blogger there? What's his name? Winging It with Paul Lucas. So he gives a very candid, yeah, thank you. Winging It, Paul Lucas, 100 and something thousand subscribers. So he just flies around, right? There he is. Maybe that was even, he's in the bathroom, he's giving a review of the bathroom. Hey, fair enough, somebody's got to do it. Maybe he was even the guy I saw on that Air Canada plane once. I don't think so. So the reason I find that useful is because, go back to FlightAware if you would be so kind. That was a Hainan 787. Well, that's what's flying in from Beijing right now. Same airline, same type of aircraft. Landing, yeah, there's the map. So go up, scroll up a little bit at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'm going to send an email to David. I think you should go meet that plane. David, go meet Hainan Airlines from Beijing at 3:15 p.m. What terminal? Terminal 3. I'm just going to send him the note. Maybe he has other plans. But aren't you curious who's on that plane? How many people are on the plane? Do they connect onwards do they get off the plane? Are they wearing masks? Were they screened in any way, either before they got on the aircraft in Beijing or upon arrival in Toronto? How was their experience at customs? Were they given strict quarantine instructions? Were they given a mask if they were connecting onwards? Generally, what do they have to say? Can you go to the 3 Chinese guys that David talked to about 10 days ago now? And by the way, I want to tell you that I've been watching David's airport videos since he started doing them. Really, he did the first one in January. Everyone who gets off those planes, that David interviews at least, is conscientious, friendly, goodwill, good faith, and they're all saying, yeah, we need to be screened. These days, almost all of them have their own masks. Some don't. But they brought the masks themselves. None of them are screened for temperature, even though they're doing temperature screening in other countries. We had these lovely young girls who flew in from Lahore, Pakistan, and they said that they were screened in Pakistan better than in Canada because they weren't screened in Canada at all. I don't know if you remember that one fellow who was wearing a lumberjack type jacket. He came in from Mozambique, which is in Southeast Africa. He said it took him Mozambique, Lisbon, I think Frankfurt, Toronto. It was a very, very long flight. He said at every single one of those airports, including Mozambique, which is a poor country, that they had better screening than in Toronto Pearson, the flagship airport in all of Canada. Do you have those Chinese guys? Like just the guys who said, is it stricter in China? And they said, of course it is. You know, duh. But I want to let you know that these Chinese guys, just like the Pakistan flight, they're not trying to sneak in. They're not mad about screening. It's the exact opposite. Their tone of voice, their conscientiousness, they're, okay, we're ready. Where's the screeners? How come it's not happening? Like they're not, ha ha ha, I'm getting into Canada with no screening. It's not like that. They're, okay, we're here, no one's going to take our temperature, no one's, like it's shocking. Let me know if you can find it. Here, go ahead with that.
Let's see what these arrivals have to say. Hello, sir. Did you just fly in from Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Just wondering, did you go through any special screening procedures when you went through customs?
You mean Hong Kong or here?
Here.
No, they asked, but they didn't have anything special. Yeah.
No one took your temperature or anything like that, or?
No. No.
Did anyone at customs say anything about coronavirus precautions?
Yeah. They asked it. They asked questions. They sent me the leaflets. Yeah.
And are you going to go into a 14-day quarantine?
Sure. Why not?
Excuse me, ma'am. Did you just get off the flight from Hong Kong? Yes. Did you go through any kind of special screening measures when you went through customs?
No screening measures. No.
No one took your temperature or?
Temperature, yes. No. You mean here when we arrive here? No one took. No.
And are you going to be going into a quarantine for 14 days?
Yes, we're supposed to. Yeah.
Did anyone at the airport give you any recommendations about the coronavirus?
Yes, she just asked. She asked us to stay home for 40 days. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm with Leyland, and he just arrived.
It was actually a different video. It was a bunch of guys. It's fine. It makes the same point. They all say, David asked them all, did you get screened with the temperature? They all say yes. And then they say, oh, but that was in another airport. No one's being screened in Canada. David sends so many of those videos, I should be more specific. It was just a bunch of guys. It was once David had the hockey stick. But let me, so I just sent that email to David literally while I was sitting here. I said, hey, go to that 3:15 flight. It's only 12:49, so he's got plenty of time to go there. And as you know, he puts his microphone on the end of a hockey stick so he can get that social distancing. There's a bunch of super chats that came in, including an incredible super chat gift of $250 from Abu Bakr Al Pafdadi. Shalom, Ezra. Happy Passover. I want to thank you for your heroic defense of pro-lifers, evangelicals, Catholics against jihadis, progressives, globalists, and the bullies in government. L'chaim next year in Jerusalem. May the Lord bless you, your family, and Israel forevermore. Well, those very touching words. Thank you for the very generous super chat. And thank you for acknowledging the work of our whole team. For example, I know what you mean there, I think, about the jihadis. Can you go to SaveTheChristians.com for a second? We have on two instances now sent reporters to Iraq. The first time was a few years back. I went and we had a whole crew. And then last year, not too many months ago, less than 6 months ago, Sheila Gunn Reid went to, that's when I was on Glenn Beck talking about it. Yeah, that's a compilation right there. That's a 40-minute compilation of Sheila. Yeah, just scroll through it like that is fine. So Sheila went to Iraq and met Christians in these ancient Christian communities. Like, they've been Christian there for almost since the time of Christ. Like, some of those Christian communities there are 1,400 years old. And so these Christians can't get help through the UN because the UN is dominated by jihadis. They're not, there used to be a private sponsorship for Christian refugees to Canada. Trudeau cut it off. So a lot of these Christians are going actually to Australia. So they're in these meeting rooms. They rescue them. These look like Yazidi girls, actually. Anyhow, thanks very much. So we crowdfund for a charity called the Nazarene Fund. It's part of Mercury One, which is a registered 501c3 charity under the IRS. I checked it out in terms of its paperwork. I went down to Dallas. I met their team in America, and then Sheila went to Iraq itself, as you can see, and just to check out how the money was being spent, because we have sent quite a lot of money over there, and we wanted to make sure it was going to the right causes. So I'm just explaining to folks what that reference was. So thank you for that very, very generous gift. And thank you to Sheila for going into literally a war zone to check it out. I don't want to send anyone back there again. It's just, it makes me too nervous. It feels dangerous. In fact, shortly after Sheila got back, the very places where she had been, there were attacks on them. All right, let's go through other super chats. Druidic Norse. Michael Tsarian called this war on freedom antipathy toward nature, meaning humans have been conditioned to desire freedom from freedom, terrifying to the sheep. He wrote manuals for war. It's heroism. All right, I don't quite understand what you mean. I'm not familiar with Michael Tsarian, but maybe I'll Google that. Thank you. St. Harrison, £2. Tommy Robinson wasted in that he does it for the donations. That's absolutely not true. I know for a fact that Tommy Robinson would rather be a journalist than a perpetual defendant. That's my view. I've come to know him fairly well. He hates these lawsuits. Flat Earth Data, 279, Cyrus Parsa versus Google, LLC, organ trafficking. Okay, I'm unfamiliar with that. Cyrus Parsa, obviously a Persian name. Google, LLC, organ trafficking. I don't know what that's about. Me Vilap, $10. Tedros Adhanom of the World Health Organization, Justin Trudeau, Patty Haidu, and Theresa Tam must all go. They are alienated, they lack objectivity, they're inept, and they have no good intentions. Well, do you want to queue up? Did we show Kian's vid on Tedros yesterday? No. Let's queue that up, because that was a good one. Street Soldier UK, £2. Follow the Reality Report on YouTube. Okay. Ray W, £10. They have been flying in since October. Too late now to stop it? Well, that's the insane thing. It's almost too late to close the barn door, but maybe we should anyways. I read Abu Baker Al Puff Daddy, super friendly one, thank you very much. Street Soldier UK. Oh, I got a note back from David Menzies. I said, David, go meet Hainan Airlines from Beijing at 3:15 Terminal 3. And he wrote back and he said, okay. So there you go. Have I caught up with all the super chats? If there's any more, I haven't. Send them to me. Sure. So here's, you know, I've done so many of these daily shows and my evening shows. It's all blurring into one. So I honestly can't recall if we have shown this before, but in any event, let me show you at least a couple of minutes. I thought we did, of Kian Bexte talking about the Secretary of the World Health Organization, acronym WHO, WHO, and I nicknamed this video, Who the Hell is Tedros? Take a look.
The 70th World Health Assembly, on the nomination of the Executive Board, appoints Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus as Director General of the World Health Organization.
Dr. Tedros Adhanom. Who the hell is he, really? You've surely seen him on TV by now, being a darling of the mainstream media and all. Dr. Tedros is the highest-ranking medical official in the world during this time of global pandemic. But unlike most medical officials across the globe, he isn't even a real medical doctor. In fact, he's the first ever to lead the World Health Organization without a medical degree. Tedros is simply a communist academic, and I'll get back to that in a sec, who has never cured a patient in his entire life. But of course you wouldn't know that, because the mainstream media doesn't want you to question the UN, WHO, China cabal. See, Tedros, he's actually a politician who hired a public relations firm in the United States to help him get the lucrative top job at the WHO. Mercury Public Affairs put together a snazzy presentation for him to deliver to the global body, but when it came time for him to answer questions, well, let's just say it didn't go too well.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Dr. Tedros, for your presentation. You focus on fragile states and hard-to-reach settings, but with very little clarity on the WHO mission in terms of the development agenda. So how can we translate your views in terms of a development candidate? Thank you.
Sorry, but the question is not clear. Can you clarify, if I may ask? Sorry.
How can you better explain your claim of being a candidate from the South, a development agenda candidate?
When you say that candidate, linking it to sustainable development goals?
I would like to ask you, which technical cooperation areas do you regard being the nice-to-have or so-called the pet topics of the member states in which the WHO is currently active, and you see the least value added in the organization action? Thank you.
Maybe if you can repeat, not clear, or if you can.
During times of crisis, the mainstream media will be the first to wave their arms and scream and shout and freak out, saying that we shouldn't be criticizing the experts. But thankfully for me, Tedros Adhanom is anything but an expert. Rather, he's a communist revolutionary who oversaw a violent government in Ethiopia from several senior positions. From health minister to foreign affairs, Tedros routinely used his power for self-promotion at the expense of his people. But don't take it from me. Take it from one of his subordinates in Ethiopia back when he was health minister. Despite their position in the government bureaucracy, they penned an essay about how, quote, Dr. Tedros left the Ethiopian health sector very much politicized and crippled, which must yet be depoliticized if it is to function properly. This resulted in Ethiopian healthcare facilities that were funded by you and I, by millions upon millions of dollars in foreign aid, where doctors, quote, used their smartphone flashlights to help deliver babies at night and had no running water to wash their hands after treating an infectious patient. That is the legacy of Dr. Tedros. Back in Ethiopia, when he was only responsible for the death of his own citizens, he was a ranking official in the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, a party that is basically Ethiopia's version of the Communist Party of China. People's liberation and all. The TPLF was so cruel, inhumane, and deadly that it was, quote, listed as a terrorist organization by the United States government in the 1990s and is still listed as one by the Global Terror Database because of its unfortunate habit of carrying out armed assaults in rural areas. See, Dr. Tedros' government oversaw the forced relocation of...
You can watch the rest on our website. It's a good report. Part of me thinks we showed that this week, but maybe I'm just misremembering. It's 12:59, and I have a couple Joe Biden videos from yesterday that I wanted to show you. I just don't think we have time today. There's a couple super chats. £2. The Groypers are winning. That's a nickname for the alt-light, I think, or maybe the alt-right. MDA, $10. Hi Ezra, have you either read or heard of the document published by the CCP called Unrestricted Warfare? If not, I highly recommend you read it. I don't think I've heard of that. When you say published by the CCP, I presume you mean the Chinese Communist Party. So if I were to find it, I would want to make sure it was authentic and that the translation was accurate. And I would want to know its importance and how authoritative it was, but it does sound interesting. Have I covered off the Super Chats? I think... Okay, there's two more. It's 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to read those last two Super Chats, and then I'm going to sign off till 8 p.m. tonight. And my show tonight, I'm almost done writing it. It's called it's not called anything, but it's basically a list of 7 ways. I'm looking for a silver lining here. 7 things. There's a lot of things that are worse now. But 7 things that are better now than a few months ago. Obviously, the death toll is a tragedy. Obviously, the economic devastation is probably just as deadly, and it's demoralizing. But there are 7 things that are better now, and I'll list what they are. I'll tell you what one of them is. A greater respect for blue-collar workers. No one's saying, hey, where's my gender studies professor? I really need him now. People are saying, hope my farmer and trucker keeping me fed through this. No one's saying, hey, where's my paper-pushing bureaucrat? They're saying, you know, I hope my fast food drive-through is open because, you know, I got to eat. I make a list of 7 things that I think are better now and that I hope remain with us once this pandemic panic is over. Tune in at 8 p.m. It's easy. You just become a Rebel News Plus member. That's $8 a month. And you can do that just by going to rebelnews.com and subscribing. And I do a nightly show, and Sheila Gunn-Reid does a weekly show, and so does David Menzies. So please consider that. It's a little bit more scripted and formal than these noontime chats. All right, my last 2 Super Chats. Viking Insane, why is our government so Islamophilic? Well, Justin Trudeau, I think, has always, like his father, enjoyed the mystery of, Pierre Trudeau liked communist China, like communist Cuba, like communist Soviet Union, because he found them exotic and they were counterweights to the West. I think Trudeau sees some of that in, if not Islam itself, a particular kind of Islam. I don't think Trudeau likes all kinds of Islam. He likes Islam that votes for him and that is counter to the West. He's very sympathetic to radical Islam. That's what I don't understand. I can understand someone being very sympathetic to progressive Islam, moderate Islam, pro-Western Islam. I get that. But what boggles me about Trudeau is he is not just Islamophilic, but he literally supports terrorists, like Omar Khadr. I think that's all the Super Chats. One just came in, so let's see if I can find that. There we go. Pluto Tree. Happy Passover, Ezra. Here in Israel, the government will be enforcing a full lockdown tomorrow for 1 week in an attempt to flatten the curve. Do you think Canada is doing enough to flatten the curve? Well, no. we're doing dumb things that make no difference, and we're not doing smart things that make all the difference. And I don't want to get into it now because it's 1:04, but I really believe Taiwan's the answer. Make everyone wear a mask when they go outside. Distribute the masks every week at the pharmacy like a prescription. Now, they're pennies a mask, really, but you got to get around hoarding and stockpiling and people exporting them for profit. Taiwan produces more than 10 million masks a day for its 25 million people, 23 million people, and that seems to be enough. Screen hard at your airports, masks for everyone. That's why they have their schools and restaurants still open there and have only had 5 fatalities since this whole thing began. And they're extremely integrated with China, by the way, economically and personally. So in Canada, we're doing really crazy things. The last tweet, can you go to my tweets and click on media and the Ottawa rules, that little graphic that the city of Ottawa published. That's probably the fastest way to find it. Just go to my tweets and then click on the media button. Yeah, so look at this. This is from the city of Ottawa. Park closures due to the virus. Here's what you can and can't do. So you can go for a walk, run or bike ride through your neighborhood park, walk your dog, keep it 2-meter distance. Okay. But look at what's not allowed. Playing any sports in the park, sitting on a park bench, and that's in bold. Sitting on a park bench, even if you're by yourself, is now illegal. How? You don't get a virus from sitting on a park bench. If you're with a group of people on a park bench, okay, I can understand a question there. But you could be in a park by yourself standing, and that's cool. Sitting on the ground, I guess it's cool. Sitting on a park bench is specifically banned. What happens if you're old? What happens if you're 75, 80, 85 when walking through the park going home? You can't stop for a minute just to rest your bones? What if you're, I just don't understand that. So in answer to your question, we're deploying our police to stop people from sitting by themselves on park benches. But we're not giving masks to anybody because we don't have the masks. We're not stopping people at the border. I showed you there's a flight from Hainan Airlines landing in 3 hours, 2 hours. David's going to go meet it. So the answer is we're doing things we shouldn't be doing, and we are not doing the things we should be. All right, friends, it's 1:07. I've gone on too long. I'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, on behalf of all of us, thank you for your support, especially that incredible $250 super chat. Until tonight, good night, and keep fighting for freedom.